Life Rhythms with Ryan Skyy. Observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all.
Oh, that I've opened doors that have closed before, and I feel happy again until I think about you laying back in the seat of your car, how the memories falling apart until I think about you in the night and your eyes in the dark. Now I don't even care where you are until I think about.
Welcome to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I'm your host, Ryan Skyy. Adobe family, Life Rhythms, it's a radio show that revolves around my personal growth journey. As a DJ and a producer, I spend a lot of my time observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all. I do it in song form, but I now do it on this radio show and podcast. Each episode of Life Rhythms, we feature one guest and one song or album, and then we talk to the guests about their career and their lives. We choose topics related to the music, and I'm excited today. I want to introduce you to my guest who's on air with me now. I've got Kastra calling in through Zoom. Hey, Kastra.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Calling in from Boston.
That's correct.
And
New Jersey.
I asked Kastra to come on the show because I've been DJing for 7-8 years, and what I was saying to Kastra off air is that if first, his music has been a staple of my DJ sets for years. I've seen his name come up more than probably any other producer I can think of, and the combination of like the creative output, how much music you're putting out, and also the quality of the sound. My guess is that most DJs globally that access record pools that are downloading these remixes and mashups, I would have to say that Kastra's music is a large portion, not a large, but he probably takes up a portion of the average DJ's list of songs to choose from than I would say most producers. And for me, what the implications of that is, like, I'm thinking like there are dance floors all over the world where people are actually hearing your work and not realizing it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, it's very odd. It's like it's a lot of times I'll go to like nightclubs or something and people will be playing my edits and like I'll be in the crowd and I'm like, I can't be that guy who's just gonna go up and be like, hey, you just played my edit. Like, I'd have to kick my own ass for doing that, but it happens all the time. Like, I had my bachelor party in Las Vegas last year, and we got a great table and stuff. Me and like all my best buddies. While we saw Tiesto, while we were there, the opening DJ and the closing DJ, between the two of them, they played 3 of my remixes and edits. So I was like, this is hilarious.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But that's the story of your career. That's a story that I want to tell people about today.
Sure. Great.
You know,
I can't wait to get into that.
Because like these edits, this is a core of kind of, well, and you went to school for marketing. And so if you look at kind of like you have a marketing brain, and these edits play into that because you're creative, but they're also a way for you to get your name out there. You were able to build name recognition amongst DJs like myself, that you may not be a household name yet, but I certainly know who you are, and I've known who you were for years because I've been playing your music.
Appreciate that.
And now you're signed to Ultra Records.
That's right. Yeah, it's definitely, I think, getting the fundamentals, getting the base of the DJs behind you is definitely part of the puzzle for sure, because once they're the ones who control the music, so you got to have them on board. So by making the edits and the remixes and getting my name into their USB sticks and computers, I felt like that was the easiest way to kind of make a name for myself. To
make a name for yourself, to grow your chops, to develop your own chops of production, as you were saying. And also now, because now you're putting out original music. You've been putting it out, but you're putting out more and more, and you're also benefiting from DJs, the name recognition. It's like, oh, here's an original song. Oh, Kastra. I know Kastra. Let me check this out. They're more likely to check it out than an unknown.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. So that's definitely the way I would recommend doing it. And, the original stuff has really started to pop the last like 5 or 6 years. And all the while I was kind of just developing, like you said, my chops and my skills on the being a producer. So it took a while to get there, but once I felt I was comfortable in releasing my original music and it was at the level that I wanted to be at, we kind of threw gas on the fire and Here we are.
Yes, here we are. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back here, I'm going to talk more about Kastra. We're also, Adobe audience, we're going to talk about your early, when you first started out, you were heavily influenced by the hard rock and heavy metal music before you were in dance music.
Still listen to it today.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that as well when we get back here with Kastra here on Life Rhythms on Adobe Radio. This episode is brought to you by Mixillery.com. I'm excited to have Mixillery on as a sponsor personally because Mixillery is a platform that you can use to find and hire someone to remix your song. And why that's so important is because anybody can go online and you can search music producers, you can search for remixers, you can hire somebody, but it's like, how much do you pay them and who should you hire and which genre should you choose? And with option overload, it can be a little overwhelming to figure out what's the best use of your money. Because what it comes down to is remixes are marketing tools. A remix of a record will get that record in front of a larger audience. It will get that record played in venues and areas like the gym or a club or a car or a fitness studio, places that maybe your original song may not be appropriate for. So it is an important marketing tool, but then who remixes it is important because first of all, the quality of the remix, and also maybe they have their own audience that's going to discover this remix. Maybe they have a following. Maybe they have a radio show. Maybe they tour and they'll be playing it out live. These are all sorts of things that are important. So Mixillery is a service that will help match you with the best remixer for your budget. So check out Mixillery.com for more information on this.
Until I think about you. Until I think about you.
Welcome back to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I am your host, Ryan Skyy, Adobe family. I've got here, calling in through Zoom, Kastra, a DJ producer based out of New Jersey. Well,
Actually, I live in Boston now, but I am born and raised in New Jersey.
Oh, originally from New Jersey.
That's right.
When did you get to Boston?
About 2 years ago, so right at the end of 2020.
Okay.
So what a great year that was. Actually, it might have been a little bit after that. It might have been 2021, but right around that time.
And do you still feel like a New Jersey at heart? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, moving to any city in the Northeast is kind of similar. We're all just, everybody has this kind of like us against the world attitude. So going from New Jersey to Boston was kind of a very seamless transition. I always say that it's like the same state, just different accent. You know what I mean? And so it's been a very seamless transition for me.
It's that Northeast mentality.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everywhere from Boston all the way down to like Philly. Like everybody's kind of got the same attitude. And so I fit right in.
I grew up in Pittsburgh, more of a Midwest town, but then I moved to New York. And I'd say like my formative years were forged in New York City. And when I moved, I'm out in LA now. And when I moved out here, I noticed the difference of culture. It was definitely not an easy transition when I moved out here.
Yeah.
I noticed because I had like the New York work ethic. That hustle culture that I love from the East Coast. But then when I came out here, it's definitely like a different vibe. And I kind of had to learn to kind of soften my approach. And, it's like you want to be ambitious and you want to connect with people and stuff, but you also maybe approach them a little different than you would on the East Coast.
You definitely do. Every time I go out there, it becomes so apparent to me how born and raised of a Northeasterner I am. You know what I mean? Because it's like, that's definitely like its whole different vibe. Like there's giant contrast between the East and West Coast, and it always just reminds me of like how far away I am from home every time I got to go out there. And it's funny because it's like, it varies just like the East Coast. Like if you go to San Francisco, it's drastically different from Los Angeles. You know what I mean? The same way that like all the places are different, but they're all just a little bit, they're all kind of the same in their own way.
Yeah. I mentioned in the opening of this, Kastra is my guest and Adobe family. So I want to provide a little context of why I wanted to have you on the show. I've been following your career. I've been DJing for, I guess I'd say 7 years. And okay, if I had to put this in a context, I've come across your name so many times over the years. So many times, right? Mm-hmm. Your music, your remixes, your mashups are a staple of my sets. They have been
awesome to hear, man.
They have been for years. The sound, yeah. And If I had to guess, this is just a guess, but if I had to guess, if we were able to peek into the hard drives of all of the majority of DJs around the world, club DJs, and look at their list of music, of their playlists, and the catalog of songs that they kind of have at their arsenal, for when they play live, if I had to guess, I would say your name probably takes up more of a percentage of that music than any other person I could think of, and I'm just going by my own experience.
Dude, you know what? There are
Seriously.
so many people that I've been with, and it's always like an ongoing joke where it's like somebody's like, "Oh, if I lose my USB, just give me Kastra's." And
Jesus!
I
mean,
hear
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And it's cool because it's in a wide. I've been doing this for so long, and that's the reason I kind of keep doing the edits, is because it's been the easiest way to kind of get people exposed to my name, so that when I started doing remixes and then eventually originals, they were already kind of familiar with it. You know what I mean? And you're definitely not alone in that. I have people who've told me that they have on Record Box like just a Kastra folder.
it's true.
You know what I mean? So
even
yeah.
when I'm looking for new music, because people who don't DJ may not know about record pools. So a lot of us DJs subscribe, and if we produce our own music or don't produce our own music, we also supplement with record pools, which is kind of like promotional only pools of music where we subscribe and we can download songs for our DJ sets. So even when I'm looking at new remixes, if I am faced with, say, like several options, if I see your name as one of the options of a remix, it's usually the one I end up going with.
Thank you. I'm never going to bet 100%. I'm sure I missed on a few of them, but that's very flattering. Thank you.
And that's why I want to have you on the show, because it's like I've seen his name a lot. He's a staple of my sound, and I know he's a staple of the industry, and I want to know who is Kastra. Like, let's get him on the show. And I also want to talk to you about your work ethic, your catalog, because for example, one of the sites that I subscribe to, I think it's digitalmusicpool.com, something like, I think that's right. So I did a search for your name just out of curiosity. I searched Kastra, and there were over 500 results of remixes,
sounds about
and
right.
edits and mashups, and I was like,
I've been sending
shit.
them. That website was started by a good friend of mine, Anthony Legati, and a couple other guys from New York.
Okay.
And they would come down the Jersey Shore every summer.
Oh, really?
So we got to know each other kind of through that. And he was like, "Listen, we're looking for people to have exclusive edits and stuff."
Yeah.
And I had always known about that, but it was fairly new to me. Production was always kind of my forte. I was not really in the DJ world to the extent that a lot of other people were. So I had known about record pools, but I didn't know that it was like this big thing where people got
When was this?
music from.
Was this like 10 years ago?
Maybe like 2014. I'd been doing mashup packs, I think, before that, but I wasn't really doing like work with a record pool. I don't think till 2014.
Okay.
So I think I was their first or second editor that they had brought on, and it gradually grew and grew and grew. And I would probably say that I'm not the only. All their editors are extremely. They have great work ethic, and I would bet you. If
You mean
looked
like
at any of the
making
other editors,
the edits?
yes,
Okay.
fantastic. I would probably say that I'm out of that group one of the one that has kind of ventured out into or had success with original music. A lot of the guys do remixes, but I would say that most of them, but a lot of the editors on there are just as good, if not better than I am.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of talent in that pool. They've really cultivated a really nice, like a group of guys, good team.
And terminology wise, for the audience listening that might be asking, what is an edit? How would you describe the difference between an edit and a remix?
Okay, so Laid Back Luke Allison has this discussion, and and he's probably right technically, but to me it's just like,
because I have my own opinions about it, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so when I make an edit, I call it a mashup. I mean, it's basically what it is. But the reason I title it like that is because mashups always have these like quirky names. Like if you're combining two songs, there'll be some like goofy name or something trying to like make a play on the two song titles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So And I always want to give people who made the songs credit. And a lot of times people would make a mashup and they'd leave a lot of the artists out. Like, you know, if there was more than one artist on it, they would just do the two biggest ones or something like that. So I started titling it basically like if it's a mashup of, I don't know, Clarity and, I don't know, Take Me Home by Cash Cash. It would be like Clarity, parentheses, Kastra, Take Me Home edit. So then all of the titles
Oh,
are
yeah. I noticed you
accounted
do
for
that.
there,
Yeah. Okay.
are accounted for. And then in the artists, I would tag everybody's involved. For A, because it's easier to search. If like you're finding, if you're on like Serato or something, everything's in there. There's less of a risk of like playing the same song twice.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure everybody gets credit. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of work goes into these things.
Yeah, because being too creative. If I'm a DJ, well, I am a DJ, but when I'm spinning live and I'm going through my list of songs, I don't want to have to. It's extra processing work to have to like look at a cute named song that isn't
as opposed to
clearly
being
telling
like,
you what is the core song.
Right. Is it Wonderwall or
Yeah.
it's like or somebody will put like something wall and I'm like I don't even know what this is.
Like
You know,
there's
if I'm looking
multiple.
for an edit,
Yeah. There's multiple
what I mean?
songs being mashed up, but which one is the main one that people are hearing?
exactly.
Lyric
It's
wise.
easier to search for. And
Yeah.
then for the artists, it's like, you know, I do a lot of like opening slots for bigger artists or something. And
Okay.
sometimes like you forget that these artists are on there. Like everybody forgets that like Sandro Silva is on Epic. It wasn't just Quintino. You know what I mean? So it's like, let's say I'm opening for that guy and I just happen to be it, and then I play Epic because I only have it tagged as Quintino.
Right.
You know, that stuff's a lot more common than you think it is. So it's like I want to make sure that everything's accounted for and I don't like step on anybody's toes or like mess anything up. And if you're searching for the songs, you can all find them. And so that's why I labeled them as edits, not mashups.
And,
you know what I
and
mean?
you're doing more than just taking two songs and layering them over top of each other. I mean, it's way more complicated than that.
Yeah. So I try to just create like super, like most of my set is my own edits now. So I try to
Cool.
make things that I want to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I try to create these like super tracks or something. Like if a drop of a song is good, but the break I don't think is good, I'll just swap it out, put a
Amazing.
vocal on top of it, and just like create this one thing that I think is like a 10. You know what I mean? And the cool thing that's just been happening recently is the stuff with AI is like it's opened up possibilities to make mashups that never would have been existed before. Because like prior to this year, you could get, you know, you could find acapellas and you could find instrumentals.
Yeah.
But the programs that are online, and a lot of them are free, that can extract these things, they're not perfect, but they're damn good enough to make edits out of. You know, nobody's gonna be listening to it in a nightclub and be like, oh, that's not a 320 studio acapella, but it's damn close enough to make an edit out of. It's really opened up a cool box over the last year or so.
So what I'm hearing you say is that in the past we've had access to vocals, say for example, without the music, but we had access to less because we were more reliant on people actually releasing the vocals of songs or them leaking or kind of a human being carving out a vocal from a song and trying to separate it from the track. But now that we have AI, you're saying that it opens up the possibility because AI can analyze a completed song and take out the vocal for us and isolate the
Right.
vocal. And it may not be studio quality, but it is passable. It is high quality already, right?
That's right.
And it's
That's
only,
right.
It's
So
only gonna get
in the
better.
past, it was always kind of like the analogy I always use is like it's like you're trying to take raw eggs out of a baked cake. So it's like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't, you know what I mean? It's like it's really hard to extract one element out of a full song. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But somehow now, I remember like going to Miami Music Week like a few years ago, and there was this company that was kind of pitching this software, and I think it was called Extracts, and it was good, but add like 4 years onto that, and then the AI models, and it's like, holy God, like we've come so far. And so now it's like, I can get acapellas and instrumentals out of songs that I never could before. So it just has opened this box
That's
of
exciting.
creativity that would have never existed, you know?
Recently, I saw you did an edit of Calvin Harris's Miracle and Avicii's Levels.
Yes, the Retrovision remix of it. That's right.
Is that right? And what? And I was thinking to myself, I wanted to ask you, whenever you are figuring out, how are you figuring out what songs go together? Because you've done 500 over 5. I mean, I'm putting together your remixes too, but how big do you think your catalog is?
Of mashups and
Of
remixes
everything.
and originals, it's definitely over 500.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, the mashup packs that I put out quarterly are 30 tracks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, definitely. How do I go about figuring it out? It's just, it's definitely a little bit of using your ears, but also using like the tools around you.
Okay.
Like I am, like I think we were talking before we started this. Like I am a trained musician, so I know music theory and how the circle of fifths and which keys are going to work together, which songs you can pair together. So, but tools like Mixed and Key have really made it easy. Websites like Digital Music Pool have made it a lot easier. So it's like if there's a vocal of a song that I have, but I can't find a version, a remix or an edit or something that is good enough, I can go onto DMP and like look at the instrumentals of songs that are in the same key and be like, okay, this is close enough. Some of the stuff ends up sounding like original remixes because, if you take like a piano house track and throw a vocal over it, it could be any piano house track. But if you take Levels, like what you just said, and put Miracle over it, it's like everybody knows those two songs, so they know that it's a mashup.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much music coming all the time. I never really feel.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a little bit of intuition, musicality, also searching some technical stuff.
Sure.
That's
knowing what people want to hear, what DJs want to play,
That's what I thought it would be. But still, it's always fun to hear, to hear different songs together. And when you're doing an edit, you're also adding in your own original production to it.
Sure. Yeah. I kind of take it to a level that I think most people probably don't do just because they're not like a full-time music producer.
Yeah.
Like I use plugins like Track Spacer, which in real time will carve out frequencies of the instrumental to make room for the acapella. I'll do some like reverb tricks and, stutter crap. It's like, there's definitely a different level of things that, if you're just a DJ making mashups, people probably wouldn't be able to do. But overall, it's the very baseline of music production, just making mashups. You know what I mean? But that's why I always say it's a good place to get started.
Did you always plan on releasing original music, or how did you first start out with the edits and the mashups?
When I came up, the thing that was like happening big in like the blog sphere was like Cap Slap and Blau. You remember them? They were doing like they were only doing mashups, and it was really cool stuff because they were doing like, there'd be like 4, 5, 6, 7 songs all in one track, and it was like really kind of creative. So kind of like what Two Friends does now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this was, 10 years prior to that. So I kind of got into it like that, and it was a good way to kind of learn the software. And I always knew that I wanted to make original music because I played in bands and all this kind of stuff. So I always knew that I wanted to do that. And as I got more familiar with making mashups, then I made remixes, and then I started making originals. And it's just time and pressure. I've been a musician since I was 13, so it's like just kind of stacked on top of each other. All I needed to do was learn the software, and once I was able to do that, I was just able to get what's in here into there.
At what point were you DJing first, or were you producing first? When did you get to start? You were producing first.
So I started producing, I would say, very minimally, just kind of fooling around with Ableton, I would say, in about 2011. And I started playing guitar in 2003, maybe?
Okay. I'm learning. I just started learning guitar.
Oh, it's fun. It's tough because it actually takes a physical toll on you. You know what I mean? Like your calloused fingers and stuff.
Yeah, I've got all these marks on my fingers. I'm like, ow.
Yeah.
The pain in the beginning.
Yeah, it's definitely a rewarding instrument to be able to play.
But you started out, you played electric guitar, right, in various local bands growing up. So you started out with that.
That's
and
right.
I started out with piano, and now that I'm learning, I wish I would have started learning guitar sooner because I'm realizing how quickly you can pick it up if you already are a studied pianist. Right. My brother was texting me because I was posting about it, and he's like, "Hey, I saw you're learning guitar," because he knows guitar, and he's like, "You'll probably get it in like a month." And I was like, if I learn guitar in a month, I'll be really happy, but I'll also be like low-key annoyed with myself that I waited so long. And it only took a month, It's like, oh, shoot.
Sure. Well, I mean, because you know piano, the learning curve is going to be a lot less steep for you. You know what I mean? It's really just going to be about the dexterity in your hands. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
and memorizing the chords, but I'm getting
exactly because you already know the chords and basically the fundamentals of music from learning piano. So from you to pick up guitar is going to be a lot easier than you going from like, bass lines starting off at 0.
Yeah. So you went the other way. You started out with electric guitar, and then you jumped to the piano when you started the
and
software?
it's, I have a lot of friends who've done it the other way, who started out as DJing and then got into production. And I always kind of wonder what was the better path to take, because I have friends who, they're not musically trained.
Okay.
They were DJs first, but they have just this ridiculous ear. You know what I mean? And they're really good at making music just by knowing what sounds good. And especially kind of where we are now with like tech house, which isn't that much of a melodic driving genre of music. I think a lot of people are thriving with that because they just know as DJs what should sound good. And then
that's true. It's not as complicated of music. It's more about it's not as much
songwriting. It's more percussive and more just knowing about what will work on the dance floor. It's more intuitive as opposed to like, songwriting based. You know what I mean?
There's less elements involved. It's more percussive.
That's right.
Yeah, more about like the energy of it and the sound and
Absolutely.
The space, especially the space, having good space in the track.
Absolutely.
So we're featuring your song "Think About You," and I'm talking about your catalog, and we're talking about you've done over 500 edits. How have you maintained? How are you so productive?
So
I want to know all your secrets of how.
Okay, yeah. So
this is so interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I treat it like a job, right? It's like, because it is my job. This is all I do. So it's like in the morning, I'll get up and just to get the creative process started, I'll make an edit. You know what I mean? And that keeps my set sharp. It kind of gets me in the mode to start working on all the more complicated production techs that I actually have to work on. So I'll do that. And then, any kind of the hardest part for like original music is just like getting started. Once you start and like get a skeleton of a song going, it's a lot easier to just like fill it in.
It's so fun once you have the skeleton. It's so fun to be filling it in and tweaking and
it
adding,
is. Like I always feel like when I'm writing a song, I'm actually like building it. You know what I mean? It feels like you're like building a track from the floor up. So it's like I'll do my edits, and then let's say hypothetically on a day that I have to make a new song, I'll do my edits, and I'm already kind of in my creative process. And so for that day, maybe I'll just write the chords to a vocal that I've been sent. And if it sounds good with just chords, I always say you should be able to just like tear down a song to basically just a vocal and a piano, and it should still be good and interesting. You know what I mean? Start to finish. It should never be boring. And if I can get that, I know that I'm on the right track. And then from there, I'll put the drums in, and I'll kind of stage out a skeleton of just chords and drums. And then that's basically, in a nutshell, like how it's going to go. It's how it's going to progress. And then the rest of it is just dressing that whole thing up. You know what I mean? You just gotta all the layers you add on top of each thing is just kind of accentuating the things that you've already done. So that's basically how I do it. It's become very systematic for me over these 10 years that I've been able to do it, but it's just because I've been writing songs since I was 13, and just the process has just become second nature to me.
And you were heavily influenced by the hard rock and heavy metal scenes.
Very, yeah.
I want to hear about this.
Stuff.
And this is interesting to the Adobe audience because there's a huge rock fan base, alt rock and the pop punk listening in. So I think they would be curious to find out how you originally influenced by hard rock and heavy metal scenes, and then how you transitioned into the dance space.
Yeah. So I
tell us, what do we need to know about the early years of Kastra that kind of give context of who we're talking to today?
I was definitely more of an outsider. Basically, once I discovered Metallica, it was all over. When I was 13 and I heard that, I was like, this is like what I've been looking for in my life. You know what I mean? And then I just like immersed myself into like heavy metal and then hard rock, and then
what was it about Metallica that resonated with you?
It was the first thing that I heard musically up till like 12, and I was like, this. I think it was probably the culture that they developed. You know what I mean? Like the culture of heavy metal, in a lot of ways, is very similar to the culture of dance music. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like they all have these like kind of like underground, and if you know about it before it was cool, that like makes you cool. You know what I mean? So it's like, I kind of I saw that, and then I gradually, I started getting into like Iron Maiden, and then Ozzy Osbourne, and then at that time, this was like 2004, so you had like other bands like Killswitch Engage, and like Trivium, and As I Lay Dying, and all this like kind of stuff happening at that time. And the thing that's kind of like, I've always loved all music, and I know that sounds super cliche to say, but it's like at one point in my life, I've probably been into that style of music. Like when I went to college, I was super into like blues and jazz fusion and like old 60s, like, I loved the Doors and Rolling Stones. Like I've gotten into everything. And I feel like I can discuss most of those genres very, very proficiently.
Right.
And I think dance music was really the last thing that I got into, because I used to go to like nightclubs in college, and I fucking hated going. Ooh. I just thought it was like a lesser form of music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I think when I heard Daft Punk, I heard Ghostland Observatory, so I kind of started getting into like Nine Inch Nails, like the electro rock stuff. Then I heard Daft Punk, and it felt like I had listened to everything else. You know what I mean? I was like, well, let me give this a try. Then I went to Australia for study abroad when I was in college, and this was like Steve Aoki, Bloody Beetroots, Calvin Harris is off his like first record,
wow.
Dead Mouse Ghost and stuff. So like I caught that again,
yeah,
and I'm like, this is amazing. Like this is like happening again, like before it's cool. And then I came back over to the U.S.
What was amazing about it to you?
It was just like, festival culture had really started to bubble in the U.S. around that time. And I think that style of music really lends itself to that, for sure. That's definitely one thing. And I don't know. It's like I've always been driven to the more melodic stuff. Like I remember when I heard Avicii for the first time, I was like, this is it. You know what I mean? Like those songs that were coming out around 2010 to like 2013 were just so great to me. And before that, a lot of the stuff was very like rhythm based. Like a lot of Dead Mouse's stuff was awesome, but a lot of it was just like, kind of beats. And I wasn't really into that. So like when Avicii and Calvin kind of came around, I was like, man, this is awesome. And it was weird because for the first time I was into music that was popular with a broader art audience. You know what I mean? So that was definitely an adjustment.
So maybe it was the original feeling of Metallica and that music, but then whenever you got to the dance world, you also had
it's the feeling of discovering something and knowing you saw it before it was cool. You know what I mean? It's like I always say I didn't get to see Guns N' Roses in '87. I didn't get to see Nirvana in '91, but I saw Skrillex on the Mothership tour, and that was awesome.
Wow.
So it's like everybody's kind of got their moment. You know what I mean? It's like every generation's, and like that was ours. And the metal stuff, the Killswitch Engage, and then I was able to catch it again with the dance stuff. Like I caught two really cool waves of music that I was just really happy to see.
Were you trying to make? You were in various local bands. Were you trying to produce music before you got into dance music?
No, I mean, the technology really wasn't as available as it is now. So it's like it was, if you were the band, you'd have to go into a studio or somebody's garage studio to go and record. And it could be expensive, and it's just like it was a pain in the ass. But I would imagine now it'd be a different story. I got into the music production because once I figured out that I could make a whole song by myself, and I didn't really need everybody else, I was like, all right, this is probably the way to go. Yeah. Because your whole the success of a band or any group of musicians is dependent on each other. You know what I mean? So if one person is flaking, the band is going to suffer, and you got to replace that person and start all over again. So, but when it was just me, it was always kind of easy for me to just like keep pushing forward.
So you're more self-reliant this way. That's how I feel
100%. Yeah, for
cool.
sure.
So we're coming to the end of the first segment. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back here on Adobe Radio with Kastra here on Life Rhythms.
Are you laying back in the seat of your car? How the memories falling apart until I think about you in the night and your eyes in the dark. Now I don't even care where you are until I think about.
Have you read Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act?
I have not, but some of the techniques he's used in just seeing like random YouTube videos and things that have popped up have been absolutely mind-blowing. Like the thing about him, System of a Down needed a bridge in Chop Suey, and he opens up the book.
What?
Or he tells. You never heard this?
No, tell me.
This is insane. So, okay, so they're recording Toxicity, the album, and they're recording the song Chop Suey, and they're stuck on the bridge part of that song. I don't know if you know that part, but it's like the Father, I commend thy spirit song part.
Okay.
So they don't know what to write there. So Rick Rubin's like, all right, go to that stack of books over there and open up a page. Put your finger down. And what he put his finger down is exactly what's in the song.
Really?
That's it. And because it kind of shows you, like, it's a lot of times it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. You know what I mean? And that's a great example of that.
Yeah, I love to hear him talk about an interview I heard him do the other day, and he was saying, he's like, I don't really know anything about music. Mm-hmm. It's so amazing to hear a music producer who's maybe the most influential alive right now, one of the most, and kind of saying like he doesn't know music, but he does know it.
I mean, Steve Jobs can't program a computer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like some people just are better at the bigger picture thing and getting the best out of people to make the best things.
And it raises questions of what is a producer and what.
Sure.
That's one thing I love about Rick Rubin is he kind of challenges the traditional idea that a producer has to be the one making the music, or they're super hands-on, whereas he's more like a conductor of the process.
He is. He plays the orchestra.
He's like the guru, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think he's obviously still doing music now, but I think when he started, the term producer was still kind of in that classical sense of somebody who's just kind of getting the musicians to not kill each other and get the best performances out of them and run the studio and all that stuff. But since then, I mean, obviously you can't argue with his results. So whatever he's doing is obviously working.
It's changed so much too. Everything's changing,
yeah.
even from when you first started when you and I both first started till now.
Yeah,
the industry's changed so much
dramatically for the better and for the worse. I would say it's like, I mean, I love the fact that there's lower barriers to entry, and somebody can make a great song and then it just pops off and then now you have a career in music. I think that's awesome, but it also creates a problem of like people that don't have any business making music who maybe shouldn't have careers in music. Not that somebody doesn't deserve it, but it's like it creates a lot of fluff and it makes it harder to find the good stuff just because there's so much stuff coming out all the time.
You started out pre-TikTok era. So did I.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's nice that you're already establishing your career now in the new age of AI and TikTok. How do you think things would and I guess it's hard to answer that, but I'm just thinking like, what if we had to start today from scratch instead of starting post? Because when I think about even like David Guetta and Calvin Harris and Tiesto and all of these legacy brands, it's like they all got started prior to social media, really, right?
And I would argue that social media is as important, if not more important, than the quality of music you're putting out. That's the unfortunate reality. And the old head in me hates that. You know what I mean? But like I just said a minute ago, like the person who's like excited for the future is as happy that people can like make these musics and go viral and stuff. I mean, the biggest song that I've had to date was because it went viral in China that had literally nothing to do with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
what song was it?
So it's like I can't even speak saying it's like a negative thing at all because it's a positive thing, you know?
What song was it that went viral in China?
Oh, man. So I had this song. So when I signed with Ultra Records in 2021, or I can't remember. It might have been I signed in 2020. I don't remember. But I think the first song that I released was in 2022, and it was a song called "Fool for You." And for the first, it was different than anything I had ever put out, but because I had made it during COVID, and it was like 110 BPM. It was one of the more introspective type, delicate songs that I'd ever released.
Okay.
Got a killer drop and stuff, but I did not expect what happened to happen. So, we released a song. It does well, goes to radio, gets on BPM, does fairly well, but kind of floats under the radar for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And then
I love these stories.
Okay, so we start noticing on song stats this like ridiculous increase in streams. Like it looks like a wall going straight up.
Wow.
And we don't know why. Like we could see it's like translating to Spotify, but not in the way that like you would think. You know what I mean? It's like okay, it's like something's obviously happening here, but like the growth like this is not translating to the streams that we think we would have on Spotify at least. So I go into YouTube and I start noticing that like all these comments are in like Chinese, and people are like, "Oh, I'm here from Douyin. I'm here from Douyin." I'm like, "What the hell is Douyin?" So I don't know if you know, but Douyin is basically TikTok in China. It's owned by the same company, ByteDance.
Okay.
It's just their version of it. You can only in China you can only access their apps. They can't access ours. We can't access theirs. So we didn't know where all this like activity was coming from. But all of a sudden, it was like charting in mainland, like the top 10 on Shazam. It was like, and then it started leaking into other countries like Japan and Singapore and these countries that we could monitor because it's not China. It's not like a closed system.
Mm-hmm.
So
The walled garden.
right. So what we had found out was that the song was used by I think it was like a T-pops person. And it just took off.
Wait,
Absolutely took off.
what is
Over
T-pop?
a billion. What?
T-pop?
T-pop is like K-pop, but it's Taiwanese.
Taiwanese. Okay, I thought so.
So yeah. So basically, the theme of the videos that were being made was during the build, it would be like you, and then when the drop hit, it would turn you into like a K-pop or T-pop person.
Oh,
or
wow.
something. Like I have no idea, but for whatever reason, they picked my song. And the amount of videos that have been used for this thing is insane. Like it's been viewed over 1 billion times.
Really?
Like it absolutely exploded. Like we started seeing it leak into TikTok, and was over like 500 million views on TikTok, and then it started. There's 11 million plays of it on YouTube Music. There's 5 million YouTube plays. There's 6 million Spotify plays. So it just like absolutely took off, and we're like, what the hell is going on? That's the lucky aspect of it. The unlucky aspect of it was that China was the last place to open from COVID. However, Hong Kong and Taiwan were open.
Okay.
So I was able to go play Creamfields last year. I played Creamfields, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and it was insane.
And
man.
you have you been able to do
that?
something like that before? This was your first opportunity?
I had played Creamfields, Thailand the year before.
Okay.
So you
got to see pre-song and post-song. You got to play
it was
okay.
crazy.
What was the difference?
So we did Thailand. Thailand was good, but it wasn't popping at all then. You know what I mean? So we come back about a year later. We go to Taiwan and we go to Hong Kong, and like I'm early. I'm early on the main stage, but everybody in the crowd knows the lyrics. There's people outside my hotel room waiting for like pictures and stuff.
Wow.
Like I'm like this is blowing my mind. So, and this is in like a country that I really didn't know a whole lot about. Like because China's kind of this closed system.
Yeah.
It's really hard to tell what your popularity is there, and it just blew my mind, man. It was awesome.
I'm so happy to hear that, man. You deserve
Yeah.
that. You deserve it.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah. So
There's an example.
TikTok thing.
Go
yeah,
ahead, the TikTok
exactly.
thing.
It's a perfect example of what we were just getting at.
That's an example of takes 10 years to become an overnight success kind of a thing, right?
I would say so.
Because you started out with the edits and releasing your songs, and then it was at least about 10 years that you get signed to Ultra.
Yeah, I mean, I had been releasing, I would say about 2018 is when it really started to click for me with original music. I think my production chops had been good enough to be at the level of where everyone else was. You know what I mean? So I think my music really started to click then. So like I think in 2017 I put out my first song that went on like Billboard. Like I think you could see it up here actually. So like I had my first track that was like top 10 in Billboard on dance. It did really well on BPM and all that kind of stuff. And then we were kind of rolling along, and then COVID hits.
Yeah.
And kind of shit hits the fan. So that wasn't so great. But in doing that, then I kind of found a management company that was working really well with me. That's kind of one of the reasons I'm in Boston now. My wife is actually from Boston, so I was always like, listen, if you ever get a job opportunity to go back to Boston, I'm not going to fight you on it because my management team's up there anyway. It'd be cool to like be able to have like more of a hands-on approach with them. And then when we came out of COVID, yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to get that viral Chinese TikTok. So they kind of clicking ever since.
You originally studied marketing.
That's correct. Yeah,
and you went all the way.
I actually got
to
a master's
MBA?
as well.
Yeah,
I got 2 degrees in it. What's that?
I was going to say you went all the way to MBA.
That's right. Yeah.
And when
Didn't
what was the plan there? How did you transition from the two? Did you always hope to do music, or was it just something you're doing on the side?
I always knew I wanted to be in music. I just thought I was always going to be more on the business side of it. And then I remember I did an internship with Atlantic Records. I remember in my senior year, and I remember going in there and you're doing intern work. It's nothing crazy. But I remember I took up a meeting, like a face-to-face meeting with the guy who's the head of international marketing. I don't remember his name, but I would say thank you if I could to him.
Yeah.
And then I go to him and I was like, I'm thinking about going to this like music business school in London or something. He's like, that's not how the music industry works, man. He's like, I'd rather hire somebody who is like on a tour bus doing drugs with a band for 5 years than some kid who has no experience just because he went to like some business school. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go do drugs on the band, but with the band, but maybe I'll give this music thing a shot because it had started to bubble like a little bit.
Yeah.
So I went back to, for me to get my MBA, I did a 5th year at the same school. So while I was doing the 5th year getting my MBA, I was kind of testing the waters with music. And then by the time I had graduated with my MBA, I was like, it would be an injustice to myself to not at least give this a shot and see how it goes. You know what I mean? Doesn't work out. It's fine. And then there wasn't as much pressure in the beginning because once you get out of school, like nobody has a job. Everyone's just kind of doing like whatever. So it was fine in the beginning. And then I would say in like the middle years, it was a little bit scary because, people are starting to make real money. And I was like, Jesus, I'm not really making that much money right now. But then in 2018 is kind of when it really kind of became my full-time thing. And I was like, oh, wait, this is like my life now. And I do this for a job. And
so a good 7 years, right?
Yeah, it took about a good 7 years of kind of just like treading water until it really started to accelerate to the point where it's like, because you're going real good now.
What kept you in for 7 years? And whenever you came out of school, one of the challenges that I face and most people that I know face is when you're in school, you've got all of this structure predetermined for you. You know what work you need to do and when it's due by, and you have people telling you to be here at a certain time and to do this by Friday. And then you get out of school and you're in the real world, and especially in the music industry, there's no clear-cut path in. It's not like a doctor where you do your residency and then there's no clear-cut paths. And what they don't teach you in school, they don't teach you how to network, they don't teach you how to discipline yourself, the work ethic they don't teach you the social dynamics, emotional intelligence, like
no,
right?
It's hard.
All the things that matter now.
Sure. And you learn those lessons along the way, you know what I mean? Like I had to have a lot of the wrong people as my manager to find the right one, to know that it's like when you have to be able to sort through people and be able to call their bullshit from the get-go. Because when you're like young and doing it, you're like, the fact that somebody's taking interest in you at all is exciting.
The fact that someone's checking.
No, taking an interest in you.
Oh, taking an interest.
Exciting. Yeah. So it's like you're just like down to do whatever, but then you notice that they're not really doing much for you, and then you go to the next person. And they're like, oh, this person has this other pitfall or something. And this is not just with like management or anything. This is like with all promoters, everything. All the horrible things that go along with the music industry.
All the personalities navigating that.
And exactly. And then, like I said, like when we started this discussion, is like I just treat it like a job now. It's like it's very structured, and I'm happy that I get to wake up every morning and do what I love to do. But it is very blocked, and it's not too much different than anybody else's job in terms of like the hours that I work during the week or whatever. It's like I'm up at 8. I'll go to the gym, and then I'm in the studio from 9 to 5, except for when I break the lunch.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? So it's just more like being an entrepreneur or a comedian or something.
What kind of structure did you have growing up?
Not that much. I kind of, I mean, I had to like learn this. Like I was never like a great student in school. I was like an okay student in school. I was always just really good at like, when I like something, I just completely immerse myself in it. You know what I mean? Like I have to really love something for me to like really want to do it. And even today, like things that I like pick up, like I learned how to ski a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? And I was like, I have to have all of the stuff because I'm if it's a slight bit uncomfortable, I won't want to do it. I just like I'm in touch with like how I learn things, and you just got to find a system that works for you. You know?
Yeah. So did you have to find your own systems, or were you taught any of it growing up?
No, I found my own systems for sure. Like for example, like I noticed that it's hard for me to, like, I'm a terrible sleeper. And it's really hard for me to sleep when I've been working creatively too late, because it's like trying to stop a car going from 100 miles an hour down to 0.
Yes.
And I would lay down and these like things would just be looping, and you'd still be in the creative process. And then before you know it, it'd be up till 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, then the next day shot, and it just wasn't working for me. So I was like, all right, let me cut it off at like 6. You know what I mean? I'll cut it at 6 and then eat dinner with the wife. We'll watch an episode of a TV show, and I'll be in bed by like 10. Then I'll wake up and do it again. And that works a lot better because I'm not
so much better.
Yeah, and I'm not like grinding. And it's hard to stop because when you're on a creative bender and you're rolling, it's like it's really hard to like put the brakes on it and be like, all right, you know what? If you keep going, you're gonna pay for it later. But it's like you're killing it right now, so it's tough. I'm not gonna act like I haven't gone a little bit later than I should have, but I try to keep to the schedule.
I used to struggle with sleep, and recently I was admitting to myself that I was watching, like before bed, I would watch, because I would work all day, and then right before bed was kind of like was my downtime, so I would watch like true crime documentaries, like true crime docuseries, murder, and all this stuff, and I've seen and heard many places of them saying, don't watch that stuff before bed. You know, you should stop looking at your phone an hour before bed. You don't want the blue light. And I've cut out the blue light, but I would still watch some of these salacious documentaries, and then I would have trouble sleeping. And recently I just was like, let me just not watch anything before bed that's not inspiring or motivational or positive. And it like almost immediately changed my sleeping experience. Like I was able to sleep well. I had dreams, and it's like, oh my God.
You want to do things that are like not stimulating you to start thinking. You know what I mean? Like the hardest thing for me to get to sleep is because my brain, it's just like I have a very hyperactive brain. I think that's maybe why I'm okay at this career, is because like there's so many things that's just going on at all times, and for me to like get it to stop, it's always hard. So if I'm watching a show like you're saying, and I'll like an inspiring show, and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, and then I'll like write something down. Before you know it, I'm like, I'm thinking too much about like an idea that I have, and then the whole thing is shot. So it's like I have to like really just, like limit the stimulation of whatever I am about to do before the bed.
Yeah, calm things down. Because one of the I guess the way I was bullshitting myself is I was like, I can watch this stuff before bed because I'm not afraid of this material, and I don't think I'm in danger in my life, and this is happening to somebody else. But really, it's stimulating your mind. It's working up emotions.
That's the issue.
Your cortisol levels.
The content of it. Yeah. I don't think it's the content of it. I think it's just it's stimulating your mind, and at a time where you need to be winding it down.
Sending off stress hormones, fight or flight response. And then you're like, let me go to sleep now.
And it sucks because like, you do a fair amount of traveling as a DJ, obviously.
Yeah.
And, I envy the people that can just get on an airplane and then just like knock out, because that would make my job a lot easier. As opposed to me, it's like, I know I got to get some sleep after I'm done, because if I have like a 9 a.m. flight and I get off the stage at 2 a.m., I got to go right to bed a lot of times because I'll be feeling terrible the next day.
How are you with managing work, traveling, and even like, are you into what you're eating, supplements, or you mentioned
I definitely
sleep?
When I'm traveling, it's hard for sure. Just because there's like not a lot of great options, and you have a tendency to, I don't know. You always feel like you're kind of on vacation. You know what I mean? Like if you're away playing in some city and you're by yourself, you're like, what the hell else am I gonna do? I might as well eat this. So when you're away, it's hard. When I'm home, I'm much more of a routine, and I'm a lot better about what I eat for sure.
Okay. So we're featuring your song "Think About You" with you and Luma.
Yes.
And I want to talk a little bit about that. What to you, because I'm listening to the song, looking at the lyrics, and to me, the song, for me, it's like, it's almost like it's complicated. It's like about all of the complicated feelings of dating somebody or post-breakup, being the one to break up with them.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on the song? How would you what would you say it's about if somebody asks you?
Yeah, I would say you pretty much nailed it on the head there. I mean, she wrote all of the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, so this is now the second time this has happened. So when I'm pitched these songs, a lot of times they'll come from publishing companies and things like that, and I don't really get to know the artist who's on the other end a lot of the time because you don't really like. I feel like it's a good way to do it that way because unless the song ends up coming out. A lot of times they don't. A lot of times you'll make a song and then it's got to get through all the paperwork and jump through all the red tape and all that kind of crap, and the song doesn't end up coming out. It's usually better to keep the artists apart, like working. So now, once that song kind of, was over the finish line, I wasn't really familiar with her, and then I reached out to her. I was like, hey, like we haven't gotten a chance to talk about this song. You wrote this beautiful track, and I messaged her, and she's like, wait a second, your area code's 732. I was like, yeah. She's like, are you from New Jersey? I was like, yeah. I'm like, I grew up in Wall by like Asbury Park. She goes, I'm from Freehold. That's about 2 miles away.
Small world.
Wild. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I really wish I knew this when I was home for Christmas. We could have like filmed some content or something.
Hell yeah.
So that was kind of cool. And like just the fact that you're making music with people that are from the same area as you, and kind of have the same insight or the same upbringing, but like kind of look on life because you're kind of from the same area. It was kind of cool.
Have you had a chance to play it out?
No, I have not. It's like it's hard because I always make. You got to kind of cover our bases. Like I'll make radio records. This one, I don't know if I'd ever play out live unless it became like a huge hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I can make some kind of club edit for it.
Yeah.
Something that would be a little bit more, I think, club friendly. So I haven't yet. We will see how it goes and the response to it. And then if it starts doing well, then yeah, we'll have to.
That's an interesting point that you just made there, because there's that dynamic when you're DJing live, you're playing to an audience. Yeah. You want to play your sound, but you also want to play songs that they know and you think that they would love and create these moments for them.
Sure.
And then
that's the hardest part, I think, about where I am in my career as a DJ now. It's like when I show up to play a place, there's some people there that know who I am and know the songs. You know what I mean? But the overwhelming amount of people don't. So I've got to turn them on to be fans of mine. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's probably not going to be through the original music that they don't know of me. So it's like I got to throw down like an awesome set of songs that they're going to know.
Yeah.
And get those people to be like fans. But I also have to play enough Kastra songs that the people who do know and bought tickets to see me are going to be satisfied that I played at least some of those songs. So it's like kind of like a balancing act of getting your set right. So it's I'll push in either one of those directions a little bit more depending on the room, but it's definitely a balancing act.
I'm right there right now with my current record, Praying, and when I put Praying out, I knew I'm like, this is not a club record. But I really wanted to put it out. I love the song. I love the message of the song. But this is the first time I've put something out where I knew everything else I put out in the past, I knew I could play out. The energy was there, up-tempo. But this is the first one that I'm like, I know this is going to be a problem in the club. But I want to do it anyways. This song has to be out in the world. And I'll just once it's out, I'll figure it out. I'll find ways to play it. But so far, I don't really play it in my sets right now.
So here's a cheat code of something that I've been doing.
Okay.
Because I know the anxiety that can cause. Like you're afraid to drop, like you're killing it, and then you're like, oh God, I'm gonna play this song that I like, but they don't know, so it's gonna we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
especially you, who's you sang on this song.
This one I'm not singing on. No.
Not singing on this one.
No,
Okay, well
not
then
this
it's gonna be a little bit different. It's me, I'm the producer, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
So what I'll usually do is I'll take the vocal when in the early goings of a song and I'll put it over a track that people know. So it's like
Okay. Well,
so like
but also
Fool for You-
throw in this other element too, so we can have more specifics too. Is
Yeah.
the BPM of my song is
Okay, that's good. This is
like
important. Yeah.
yeah, it is important because it's like I don't know, it's somewhere around. It's slow. It's like somewhere around 100, 108.
Yeah, I mean,
100,
so yeah,
108.
you're definitely in a tough spot for clubs, but sometimes you can.
Or no,
get
it's
away
like in
with
the
pushing it
80s
up.
because if you do double time,
80s is real low. Then you'll have to go to like you can do something that like a melodic dubstep, like an Millennium type thing, because that's kind of around that BPM.
that's the
But-
extra tricky part is because if it's at 80 to 100,
That's the hardest BPM for stuff. For sure.
I know.
Because the only thing that's in 80 is in drum and bass, and that's starting to hit now, but that's not going to work in every room. And I don't know what kind of song it is. So
I have to look up
Yeah,
the
good
exact
luck with it.
BPM, but yeah, that was the original. That's the challenge. Is like if we do double time, you can kind of keep it around the same speed vocal wise, but you can't really do a house edit, a house mix. And if you do a house mix, then the vocal sounds real slow,
sure,
right?
it's tough. It's a tough spot. Anytime I get like, commissioned to do a remix or something that's an 80 BPM, I'm like, it's like the directions that you can take it in are much.
I think
smaller.
it's closer to 90, but still similar.
Yeah.
Similar challenge.
Still similar BPM, still tough. You
So-
got to like break 100. You know what I mean? Because that's like, or
Yeah.
to like get it to like the house speed that it doesn't sound so slow or too fast.
Yeah.
It's like it's definitely hard.
When I was producing it, the original version of it, we had the same option of do we go with the original tempo? Do we try to turn it into something that it's not? And we decided to just to really honor it as is.
That's my approach as well.
But your original advice was to take a song people know and put the vocal with it.
Oh, that's for DJing though. I mean, like
Yeah.
just if you're
I mean, I couldn't put that out, but I could play that.
right, exactly. So it's like if it's a good way to like introduce a crowd to the song without taking the bigger risk as absolutely just killing a dance floor because they don't know what it is. You know what I mean? So if you take
I'm gonna try
the
this.
vocal, so I do it all the time. If I know that the crowd probably is not going to know this, but I still want to make sure that the people who came to see me are happy.
Dude, this is great.
I will put the vocal of the song over a track that other people know. It could be anything. It could be Calling, Titanium, whatever. You know what I mean? Just something
Yeah.
like Heads Will Roll. Great one to put. You can put anything over Heads Will Roll. You know what I mean? So that's like an easy way to do it. And then as I grow this, as the song becomes better, then I could start playing the more original version of it or something. You know what I mean? Like the end, like the set ender that I usually use is I had a track that did really well called Circles. So the song starts off as the vocal of Circles over Language by Porter Robinson. And then as it builds to the drop, it goes to the original because that one just happens to flow well. So you can't lose on that one. It's like everybody knows Language. They don't know this vocal. But if they do know the vocal, then it goes into the original version. Everybody's happy. You know what I mean?
Get the best of both
so
worlds.
it's like that's an easy way to kind of get around it.
I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna see what it goes well with. I mean, the
Right.
original version of the song is high energy. It's got a big drop. It sounds really good in the space. It's not like it's low energy and I can't play the original. I can. It's just the BPM is totally different from the whole rest of my set. And
Sure.
and there is
80's
ways.
tough to get to.
There's
Yeah.
ways to do it. I've done it. I've done it with other songs.
But if you get down to it, it's like you got to stay there for a minute. You can't like go to 80 BPM and go
Yeah.
right back up to 128. It's like you'd have to do like 80 and then another 80.
Yeah,
It's
it's doable though. I can do it. It's
yeah,
more.
it's definitely doable.
It's
for
more
sure.
about the lyrical content of the songs. About it's a secular song, but it's called praying. It's about praying. It's about like searching for answers and like needing. I just need an open door. Like I need something to go my way. You know.
Yeah.
So it's like emotional song that people like it, but the BPM is different. So
I feel you, man. It's listen. It's a lot of people struggle with it. It's like I play a lot of different kind of music in my set. I kind of prefer that. You know what I mean? Just to keep things interesting. But it definitely adds an entire different level of technicality to DJing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like I could not to knock on house DJs, but playing house music's easy. You know what I mean? Everything's 4 on the floor.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
But when you start mixing in
Open format.
break beats and hard style and all this kind of stuff, it's like it's hard to transition. It's harder to mix. It's definitely more of a puzzle.
But it makes you a better producer too, because you're seeing what's working and not working live.
100%.
I have this
And
conversation.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I have something else I'm going to add to, but I want to hear what you had to say about this.
It's kind of like what you said. Like you said, should I turn this song into something that it shouldn't be, or just like kind of let it be what it is? And that's the approach that I always take. Like if you listen to my original music, it always kind of feels like me, but in terms of BPM, it's definitely a little bit all over the place, because like I'll get the lyrics or something and I'll be like, I love this. And I don't want to have to force it into a different style. I want to just like make it what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that approach has always been better for me. Forcing something, you can always tell when something's forced into another.
I've tried it
style
both
than
ways.
should
In the past, I've tried to force things.
It doesn't feel as natural.
Doesn't
Very
work.
rarely does it work.
What I was going to add to it is that I have this conversation with a lot of like go-go dancers. There's a lot of go-go dancers that are at the events that I spin, and some of them get into DJing. Right. And one of the things that I tell them, they're asking me for advice, and I also tell them, like, you have an advantage because you've been dancing every weekend with different DJs. You get to hear all these different DJ sets on a weekly basis for hours and hours, and you get to see how the crowd responds to every single song they play, every choice they make, what parts of the song the crowd responds to, what part where you lose the crowd, where you get them back.
It's all so important.
How particular sounding remixes sound in different spaces depending on the sound system and stuff. Like that's all data that most of us DJs don't have. Even if I'm playing I'm playing every weekend, but I'm only hearing my set, really. Right. So I'm going off of like how people respond to my set, but I don't really get to hear too much what other DJs are playing. Mm-hmm. So first, like starting out, I felt like that's a nice advantage. I just encourage them. You know, I'm like, go for it.
Let me ask you this, because this is the I always, it's like the kind of plight of being a producer or a full-time musician is I can't just listen to music anymore. Like I miss the innocence of like before I did this, and I would listen to something and I would just take it for what it is.
Yeah.
And now, because I'm a musician and I'm a music producer, it's like something so small can ruin it for me. You know what I mean? But something so small could make it for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something that people don't like. Something as small as like a hi-hat being too loud. I'm like, this is driving me nuts. Like I got to turn it off or something like that.
Or the kick is overpowering.
And these kind of things don't matter at all to the average person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I'm making music, I have to think big picture, because you're not going to notice these tiny things. They're going to be able to pick up, like, is it catchy? Is the beat good? You know what I mean? That's basically about it. So do you have a similar experience as kind of music not been ruined for you, but it's just the way you listen to it kind of been changed?
I can't listen to music passively. My mind automatically starts hearing
it, ripping it apart.
Just hearing it. Hearing the mix of it and hearing the instruments they're using and hearing the effects they're using and the transitions, the different sections of the song and the different parts, the melodic parts. And then I'm like, oh, they're doing a fifth harmony there, and they're bringing in this, cool, it sounds like they're doing some like inversion chords here, or I do find and that a lot of times people are surprised to find that I drive in silence most of the time.
Dude, I barely listen to music.
Yeah.
Like because I spend all day listening to music. You know what I mean? Like I'm often listening to podcasts or something when I'm driving. Like the last thing I want to do is listen to more dance music when I'm in the car or something. Like if I'm going to be listening to music, I would say 75% of the time it's something other than dance music. You just need balance. You know what I mean? I can't be just like at 125 BPM all the time.
I'm like in my car in silence most of the time. I'm like one of the only guys in the gym not listening to music in headphones. Mm-hmm. I just listen to whatever the gym's playing, but I don't like having like this music blasting in my ear, especially if it's music that I obviously love. I'm going to listen to stuff that I normally listen to. To me, it's draining on the brain, and I kind of see honestly, for me, driving and working out are more, those are like my moments to be kind of meditative and think. I do my best thinking then.
Right.
So I don't want to be I don't want to have all this input coming in that's going to be keeping me focused on whatever the lyrical content is and whatever the song's talking about, whatever the musical aspects, and not give myself a chance to kind of like think about other things, big picture things.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. I kind of use those moments to kind of like get into the other parts of my life that aren't music. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'll go on like the elliptical and I'll watch like sports videos, sports highlights, like analysis or something, or I'll watch like a self-improvement video or something. Like, you know, if I'm out of the studio, like let me work on something besides music. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're there.
Mm-hmm.
So
I gotta agree with you though.
So with Think About You, and you had a song before this called Denial.
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Also out on Ultra. Okay.
So that one I did with a Canadian producer. His name is Alex Byrne, and this is the second time I'd worked with him. The song that I just told you about with Language, the vocal over it, that song was made with him. So this is the second time we were working on the song, and this one sounds totally different in terms of BPM and style, but I love them both. And kind of what I've been trying to do is, like, since that song went viral in China, I've tried to make more similar songs to that, but again, keeping in line with like whatever the vocal has to offer. So I'll make it similar, but if it's the BPM's different, I'll try to kind of finagle it in a way that it feels natural, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. How are you with choosing what to work on, especially if it's independent, if you have somebody asking you to do a remix? Because for me, I had to go through the process. When I first started my career, you started out kind of doing edits and stuff. And I also, when I started out, I was doing bootleg. The first song I remixed was a bootleg of Adele's Hello.
Oh, of course. I remember when that was. There's so many that was coming out at the time. I remember that
because they were not commissioning any official remixes for that song. So it was just like the Wild Wild West. Whoever wants to do a bootleg and get it out there, it has a chance of. And I was doing it just to learn how to remix, just to see like, how does this work? Let me get in here and try to do this. And it did end up. I wouldn't say it went viral, but it did get picked up and distributed, and like Billboard mentioned it in an article as one of it was like listed as one of 3 or 4 songs that they how can you know? But they say like, here's 3 or 4 songs that we feel like helped it go. Like, how does this? How did this slow? It was an article that was like, how did this slow ballad chart #1 on 2 or 3 dance Billboard charts? And it was like, well, the remixes. And then they listed.
It definitely helps.
They listed
and
3 or
it's
4.
Weird because all of her music seems to be staples in dance. In DJ sets. You know, "Fire to the Rain" is still. I still hear that a lot. I still hear "Rolling in the Deep."
Yeah.
And then "Hello" is like is a good one. So somehow she did it. She made these like really introspective ballads, and I don't know. See.
Yeah.
They need the DJs.
They need it.
Whether they want to admit it or not.
They know. It's the artist. From what I hear, she's just really hates her music being remixed.
Really? Yeah, a lot of people do that. The guy from M83 that made Midnight City, he hates when people remix it. Yeah, it's a shame because the electronic music world loves that song.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
So when I first started, I was like you. I was doing edits and more of me. I was just trying to learn how to remix. But then also I went through a period where I would do anything. Like anybody who came to me with any independent artist was like, "Hey, will you remix my song?" I would do it. And then when I started charging for remixes, I would still take anything that came in. But then but the majority of the songs that were coming in, I just did not, kind of like you were saying about listening to music. It got to a point where I couldn't work on these songs anymore because they were just, most of them were just
not good.
Just the writing,
When somebody's paying you to do something, it's always kind of a balancing. It's like how bad, it's like, if the paycheck's good enough, might do it. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's got a price, but if it's like not that good and the song's not that good, well, then it's a pass. You kind of just gotta. But the other way, if it's a great song and the budget's low, I'll do it. It's just a balancing act.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. I noticed like, okay, if I am remixing any song that's coming in that's paid, after a while, I noticed that my love of it was going down, and my frustration was going up because I didn't love the songs I was working on. I'm like, this vocal's
the quality
terrible.
of the songs that you're making aren't as good, and so you're not going to be as happy with that. Yeah, exactly.
So I personally got to a point where I was like, I'm going to say no to all of these songs. I'm going to be very selective about what I work on because that's the only way I can save the joy of making music because I'm starting to not enjoy it anymore, and that trajectory isn't going to work out. But then you have people like Dave Auday who he's got a huge catalog, and
massive. He's probably got more radio remixes than anybody.
Yeah, he's got more number one charting, Billboard number one charting remixes, but he also a lot of his catalog are independent artists, and he's like you. He's got the work ethic and he's prolific, and he isn't as selective, but the quality is always there. But it doesn't. The songs don't seem to affect him the way they affect me. Like his head seems to be in a different space than me. We're just different people.
I think he kind of comes at it more of a. I hope he doesn't take this the wrong way, but as more of like a producer job than he does as an artist. You know, Dave doesn't release a lot of original music. Ironically, one of the songs that he did release originally, I actually remixed for him. It's called like Hustle, and he did it with Vassie.
Okay.
So I think he just sees it as his job. He's a talented producer. People come with him because they want to get a Dave Auday remix, and unless it's god awful, I'm sure he'll take it on. You know what I mean?
He always delivers. The sound is always.
He always delivers. Exactly.
You always
it's what
know.
So what he's great at. Yeah.
You know his mixes are always going to work in the club, even if people don't know the record.
That's right. Exactly. So there's all different types of people in this industry. There's people that are just DJs, people that are just producers. There's people that do both, like me. There's people like Dave who just do remix. I mean, Dave DJs, but the overwhelming amount of thing that he does is remix work.
Yeah.
So it's and I think the thing that I've learned the most from doing this from all these years is that you kind of have to have all these systems in place and these streams of income coming. That's what kind of allows you to keep doing it, because like if one thing COVID ever taught us is like if one of your legs is chopped out, you got to be able to stand on the other ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like when COVID happened, like I wasn't hurting as bad as a lot of other people were, because like I do a lot of DJing, but I also do a lot of other things, mixing, mastering, ghost production, whatever I gotta do. And that's always worked for me,
Dave
I'm
also
sure Dave
he's got balance too with family life.
Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah.
You'll burn out. Like you gotta stay sane. Like people far more talented than I have come and gone, and then the reason that I've been able to keep doing this and make a career out of it is just because I've just kept at it and like haven't let other things drive me crazy. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much in the music industry, more than almost anything. There's more things that can get you off course. You know what I mean? Than almost any other job. So
do you have family?
It's definitely tough.
Do you feel like you have balance with your family life?
I do. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have I just got married last year. She's been nothing but supportive, never complains. Gets to reap some of the rewards when we get to go somewhere cool. If it's a cool show, traveling somewhere, she'll come. She gets to meet some people that we can't believe we would meet when we were, 20 years old.
Yeah.
So, it's cool. It makes for an exciting life. And she's been nothing but supportive, 100%.
How long did you date before you were married?
About 10 years.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, long
so you
time.
always had that support.
I mean, we
there.
never even knew if we were going to get married, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And then I don't know, just felt like the right move.
Yeah. I've got like family on the brain now, because I'm single, and I've dated, I've been in and out of relationships, but I'm getting now I'm wanting that family balance.
Sure.
So I'm kind of looking. So when I have people like you on the show that have the families and they seem to have balance, I admire that. And I'm kind of like, ooh,
I would
want
imagine
that.
Dave is probably. It's a lot harder. Like if I was single now, it would be a lot harder to come into my life now and like accept it for what it is. Like this is like what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And like it's either take it or live it. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of cool things to be able to do, but it's also like it's very intense. She's been there since the beginning, so she's kind of seen the path, and it's been natural to her. for a lot of people, yourself included, I would imagine it's difficult to find somebody that's gonna take the ride with you. You know what I mean? It really is. It's like I always say, it's like being an entrepreneur. It's like you got to just like
True.
You got to want it so bad, you know?
True. Are you the entrepreneur that's like starting out in the beginning, sleeping in your office?
Right.
Exactly. Or is the business established and you have a house and employees? And where do you meet your spouse along the way?
It is really important.
And who you're meeting along the way changes as you're growing.
100%. It's like, and I'm not saying that you can't meet the right person once you've attained success.
Yeah.
But you also can meet a lot of the wrong people who are just look at him and be like, oh, that's a guy with a cool job who gets to do a lot of cool stuff. He sounds like somebody I'd like to date. You know what I mean? And then it could be terrible for you. So
yeah,
it's not an easy thing. Luckily, like I said, I've been dating the same girl, not dating anymore. Now we're married, but we were dating for a long time. So I never had any doubts at all about that.
You're so lucky. Hold on to that. That's because the challenges that I have now it's like twofold. It's like the nature of my job, the kinds of like I'm there because I'm a musician and I love the music but people that I'm meeting in a setting of like my work aren't necessarily like, I don't think my future partner's going to the club every weekend.
No,
you know what I mean?
Doesn't go every weekend. Yeah,
not to generalize, but like,
yeah,
it's like, but the people that are kind of in my orbit mostly aren't good matches for what I want long term. But then if I do meet somebody who there is a possibility there, then also they're like you had said, they weren't there for the ride, so they're kind of seeing this world that I'm living in.
Sure.
And they may have their own preconceptions of like who, they may have a stereotype of like the prototypical DJ and like what does that
right.
What does that involve? And do I really want this in my life? And is Ryan like?
Yeah, and I mean, there's stereotypes for a reason. We do obviously get involved in a lot of that stuff that they think, but it's also so from my, I don't know if it's advice, but what's worked for me is just that like my wife is completely different from me. Like we both grew up on like dance music, so we have that as a core fun. I mean, we both really like that. But she is much more of a homebody, likes to stay home, and I'm much more of like a go out and, I sit in the studio Monday through Friday. So if Friday comes around, I'm like, I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, let's go out. Like, I got to see some people. If I'm not traveling, I got to go out. And a lot of times I'll go to the clubs that are in Boston, see who's playing.
Yeah.
Go to dinner with people that are in town. It's like, I have to go do that. She's much more, let's stay at home. I like to read, like whatever that stuff. And that balance is actually good, because if I dated someone who was like me, I would be too much in that direction and I would go nuts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that she kind of balances it out to the point of like, I come back to the middle. You know what I mean? So
you guys also started pre-social media or in the beginnings of it.
We had Facebook, but
Facebook.
I mean, it wasn't like it is now.
But
man,
you
with
navigated
TikTok.
this whole era. That at least from my experience, social media seems to complicate things.
It certainly does. Are you talking about relationships? Or with relationships?
like when you're dating somebody.
100%. It's
now with the dating apps, but then also if
like
you're dating
when I was dating, like the big thing would be like, are you Facebook official? Like, when you put your girl or your boyfriend on your app and it would say they're officially dating, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think that's not a big deal anymore. Nobody uses Facebook, but now it's just like, how come you never post me, or how come you don't put me in your stories or anything like this? And it could lead to, I don't know, people not being trustworthy with each other. So it's definitely a whole different thing to navigate.
Or you're seeing your partner just posting photos that you're like, why are they posting these kinds of photos, or who are these people that they're interacting with?
I'm certainly happy that I got out just before that happened. I'm not. I don't.
Yeah, you just escaped.
I'm thrilled about that. I don't know how I would have fared in the dating world these days. It's sounds complicated from what you're telling me.
It is complicated, and then throw the layer of the music industry on it, and
that's always fun.
Being in Los Angeles,
God.
yeah.
Well, dating in LA that's a whole different animal.
I always tell people dating in New York, people are quicker to write you off, but they're also quicker to commit. Whereas out here, people are less likely to, like, people kind of want to keep their options open. So they won't just like tell you they're not interested or write you off. They kind of want to, they'll go on dates with you. They'll kind of keep it open.
Just in case they need you for anything.
Yeah. And they're less likely to commit out here. It's kind of like an inverse of, I see kind of an inverse between the coasts.
Yeah, 100%. You know, people in the East Coast are much more direct into your face, which could be good or bad. And then, you know, people from West Coast I find are generally not as direct.
Yeah.
They're, you know, which is, depending on what kind of person you are, is good or bad.
Kastra, coming to the end of the show.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on. We could do this whenever you want.
This was great. This is great talking to you. I'm so happy that we got to sit down and have this chat.
Sure, man. You know, next time I'm out to your side of the country, maybe we'll link up.
For sure,
some tacos
please.
Or something.
Yeah, let me know for sure. I'd love to. We can get together, have a drink or something.
Great,
Tacos
that'd
sound
be
good.
awesome. Anything else you want to talk over before we sign off here?
I want to make sure that listeners know to check you out online, Kastra, Kastra.
That's right.
We're going to be, if you're watching this on, if you're listening to this on Adobe Radio, you're listening to Life Rhythms with my guest is Kastra. He's a DJ producer, and you can actually watch the full video version of this conversation on Adobe's website and also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You're going to want to search Life Rhythms and Kastra. So I got that out of the way. I want to make sure people know that. Is there anything you want to add for your songs, Think About You? Do you have any questions?
No. You know, I'm definitely got more stuff in the pipeline. This is going to be a heavy release year for me, as last year wasn't. So a lot of original stuff. Keep the remixes rolling, and you know, you can always count on the edits.
Yeah.
So if you want them, you know, right away, the first place to go is usually Digital Music Pool. I'll usually put an edit out every Monday on my YouTube, just for like a Mashup Monday thing, and then what most of the DJs usually wait for is the mashup packs that drop a couple times a year. So you can find it all on my socials. Most stuff is at Kastra Music. I think the only thing that's not is my TikTok, which is Kastra Music Official. And that should be about it.
Okay. I'm going to be following your career. You're going to continue to be a staple of my sets. And I want you to know you're a friend of the show. So we would love to have you back. You can come back in the future and update us on how things are going with the latest singles. I'm sure 2024 is going to be an interesting year. There's going to be lots of changes and new AI technologies coming in.
There always is, man. You got to reinvent yourself every couple of years, it seems like.
Yeah, so it'll be fun to talk to you in the future if you want to come on. As things are changing, we can kind of talk about like what our experiences have been with DJing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, everything just constantly moving.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
You know, I'd be happy to. Maybe we'll do it in person next time.
Please, I would love that.
Great.
All right, Kastra.
Thanks again for having me, man.
Thanks for coming on the show.
All right. I'll talk to you next time.
Bye.